Hello there, good evening and welcome to Starr today here on Starr 103.5 FM. And coming up this evening, accept outcome of upcoming December 7 polls. Electoral Commission urges political parties as Chairperson Kodjo Mensah assures of peaceful and transparent elections.
Surely there will be a winner and surely there will be losers. And so we all call on our contestants to accept the outcomes of the elections because we undertake and we commit to ensuring that the elections are free, they are fair, they are credible, they are transparent, and they are peaceful.
Tonight, we will engage the political parties on the assurance given by the EC. Also, Africa sitting on a time bomb as satisfaction in democracy drops, with latest Afrobarometer report pointing to more youth preferring military rule over democracy.
The youth, we are seeing more and more of them looking at military rule. Now, it is obviously quite a concern because it shows the high levels of disillusionment with democracy.
But what does this portend for the continent, including countries like Ghana heading into crucial polls in December?
Job creation, and especially job creation, economic management or mismanagement, issues to do with corruption. We need to address these issues so that people can remain at least content with the system of democracy itself.
We'll have a conversation with a governance analyst on this development. Later in the bulletin, minority slams government over recent increment in prices of petroleum products, arguing immediate past Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta was wrongly blamed for the woes of Ghana's economy.
They told us that Ken Ofori-Atta was a problem and that if Ken Ofori-Atta was removed, the problem would be solved. He is out. And since he left, fuel prices have even increased more. The currency is even depreciating more. And so clearly the problem is not Ken Ofori-Atta, but the managers of the economy with Dr. Bawumia as head.
And the Rotational Nurses and Midwives Association give government 2-week ultimatum to pay all outstanding allowances or face thereof.
Recognizing the critical role that nurses and midwives play in the health and the well-being of our communities. If we do not receive a response and the financial clearance is not released within 2 weeks, we will be forced to take drastic actions.
We have details of these and more coming up shortly. Stay with me. Thank you for your time this evening. Welcome aboard Ghana's most comprehensive news analysis program, Starr, today here on Starr 103.5 FM. And as always, we're live on Facebook. So do join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Starr 103.5 FM. And you can send me your thoughts, your comments, your views, your contributions to the stories that we will be tackling this evening. Alternatively, you can send all of those to WhatsApp number 0552 880 216. 0552 880 216. Now let's get interactive because you are a big part of the conversation this evening. Now let's get into the details, and Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Kodjo Mensah, is urging all political parties to accept the outcome of the upcoming December 7 polls, assuring the elections will be peaceful and transparent. Now, at 6 p.m. today, Ghana's two topmost football clubs, Hearts of Oak and Kotoko, will meet in a game of football as part of Parliament's commemoration of the 30 years of democracy in the country. Now, speaking at a presentation of the Democracy Cup by the leadership of Parliament to the Electoral Commission, Kodjo Mensah insists the electoral processes are as transparent as a football match. Listen to her.
We're all mindful of the fact that we stand at the dawn of yet another election, the 2024 general election. And therefore, this initiative to promote and trumpet peace in Ghana, across the 16 regions of Ghana, is a laudable one. We applaud the Speaker and the leadership for the Democracy Cup that will culminate in the playing of a football match this afternoon at the Accra Sports Stadium. And I believe the essence of the cup is to demonstrate to the citizenry, and particularly the youth, that elections is also a contest. And at the end of the day, parties put in their very best, but at the end of the contest, at the end of the match, one emerges the winner. And just as the football match is conducted in an open and transparent manner, so are the electoral processes of the Electoral Commission of Ghana. From the very beginning, the registration through to the collation and the declaration of the results, our processes are also undertaken in an open and transparent manner, involving key stakeholders, i.e. the political parties, the security agencies, and the citizenry. And it is also done in an open and transparent manner. And so just like the football match, we serve as the midwives that birth the elections. We are the referees that conduct and that lay the election and the processes that lead to, the election day itself. And so as referees, we are committed to, ensuring that our activities from now in the lead up to the election and all our electoral processes are transparent, they are open, they are fair, and they are involve the collaboration of our key stakeholders, i.e. the political parties and the citizenry. So like the referee of the match this afternoon, we commit to ensuring transparency in all aspects of our work. Our activities are open, as I mentioned, right from the registration through to the declaration of elections. Everything is done in the full glare of the public. Nothing is hidden. And we will commit to this, to maintaining and ensuring that level of transparency across all aspects of our work. And so we also want to entreat and call upon the contestants of the election to accept the outcomes of the election. Surely there will be a winner and surely there will be losers. And so we all call on our contestants to accept the outcomes of the elections, because we undertake and we commit to ensuring that the elections are free, they are fair, they are credible, they are transparent, and they are peaceful. So this is a commitment of the Electoral Commission, and it's a commitment that I make on behalf of the entire team, not only 1,700 permanent staff, but on behalf of our over 220,000 temporary staff, that we would undertake our activities in transparency, in fairness, with accountability, and with integrity. And we believe that at the end of the day, the key contestants and the citizenry would affirm that the elections have indeed been fair and credible.
So that's Jean Kodjo Mensah. She is the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. But let's get some conversation with the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Mustafa Foyogbande. Mustafa, thank you so much for your time this evening. Hello, Mustafa, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Fantastic. So, as it stands now, the Electoral Commissioner, Jean Mensah, she says that political parties should ready to accept the outcome of the elections in December, because her outfit, the Electoral Commission, is acting as the referee. And okay, well, we seem to have lost Mustafa Foyogbande. The lines are a bit sketchy, but we'll keep trying to get to speak to him on this commitment by the Electoral Commission. They say, well, they are referees and they will not be a critical part of that particular match. They're not going to take any sides. They are going to be very transparent and ensure that the elections are conducted in a very peaceful manner, for which reason the call has been placed on all political parties to be ready to accept the outcome. Now, what will it take for these political parties to accept the outcome of the elections, especially when there is a lot of mistrust when it comes to the positioning of the Electoral Commission going into the elections? We'll get to hear from the NPP as well, and get to hear also from other political parties on what it will take for them to accept the outcome of the December 7 general elections. But you also can join the conversation. Let me know exactly what your thoughts are on this particular assurance given by the EC boss, Jean Kodjo Mensah, via WhatsApp number 055-882-880-216. Let me know your thoughts. And also go on Facebook and let me know what you are thinking on Facebook. We are streaming live on Facebook already. Evans Japan, I see you on Facebook. He says, good evening. Aaron Babako Kokomisa is also sending us one on Facebook talking about the mismatch between labor and then academia. We'll also get to that shortly. So get interactive with us on social media as we try to raise the phone lines and be able to have that conversation for you on the Electoral Commission and exactly what the Commission is also intending to do with regards the December 7 elections. The Commissioner says all is in place to ensure that we have a very smooth process. Mustafa Foyogbande, let's try one more time and see if we have a clearer line to him. Mustafa, can you hear me now? We lost you briefly.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Great. So I'm asking, what are your thoughts on the assurance by the Electoral Commissioner that the elections in December are going to be very free, fair, transparent, for which reason political parties should be ready to accept the results?
Well, this is very simple. The duty of the Electoral Commission is that over 7 million Ghanaians are going to vote, estimation. Her duty is to focus on her professional capacity as an institution and give each accounting of the vote very accurate. Her duty. And accept things that are done accuracy, reflecting the will of the people. If 100 people have voted, the Electoral Commissioner should be willing to declare the votes of 100 people as against the people they have voted for. A situation where the Electoral Commission will declare results, go and change and declare another results, go and change. The NDC will not attain any of chaos in the country. All the Electoral Commissioner should be doing is to focus on her job. But to engage in this PR that subdues her integrity and subdues a level of accountability to the people of Ghana so that she won't be capable of collating results. And that, for me, raises a lot of fear.
And how do you say this subdues the work that she has to do? She says she's just giving assurances. Isn't that good enough?
No. She doesn't need to give that assurance. Her assurance should be that she should just do her work. A commissioner that cannot tabulate registration figures, that they publish figures and they are wrong. That commissioner is telling you that her work will be transparent and you believe it. Common registration, limited registration that we did, the commission have not been able to publish accurate figures. You have seen that they have to rely on the NDC to correct that anomaly, which is strange because these assurances were given. Before we started the limited registration, the commissioner assured that, their work was going to be transparent, they were going to be professional. They ended up using Cora as a software to publish their figures. And you saw the errors, but for the vigilance of the NDC. So when a commissioner begins to do such public PR, that does not give room for her to, expose to scrutiny, public scrutiny that will allow her to do her work well. For me, it's scary. And it's more scarier when she does so without doing the real work, without putting the real men that will ensure that each and every Ghanaian's vote is counted. Until we get there, I don't believe that you have to go and speak because a commissioner is saying that she'll be transparent. As far as
she says that she's put in place the mechanisms to ensure that everything will be fair, for which reason by December 7, after voting, latest by December 9 or 10, when the results come out, every political party should be ready to accept the results.
You were there when we did assembly election. She gave the same assurance, but what happened? You were there when she gave the same assurance, but under her supervision, machines were stolen. So today we can't find those machines. You were there when she gave that assurance that we were going to do limited registration. They were all ready. What did we see? Network issues, suppression. Is that the same way that she calls transparent? That is not transparency. Transparency is when you ensure that each single system is working, functioning properly. As far as I'm concerned, and you know, and the Ghanaian people know, that these commissioners didn't do her work well in the assembly election, didn't do her work well in the previous limited registration exercise, didn't do her work well in the recent one. Is that transparency? Is that the same assurance we are going to take into 2024?
So you have no confidence whatsoever in the EC going into the December 7 election?
The NDC will win the election with vigilance. It is our duty to be vigilant, and that is what we are going to do.
And that is what the referee is assuring, that she's going to ensure that both parties play well, and she's going to be in the middle.
Jim Mensah so far have not demonstrated, and when I say Jim Mensah, let me not personalize her. The Electoral Commission at the headquarters of Ghana have not demonstrated capability to discharge a transparent, free and fair election. They have demonstrated that over 7 years now. From the 2020 election, they have not learned. 2021, 2022 activities they didn't undertake. We did it in 2023. 2024, limited registration exercise was a sham. It was difficult to reach areas that registration election could not happen. They have to be postponed. That is recipe for chaos. In the limited registration exercise, you saw network issues that allow for gerrymandering. You saw challenges with machines that allowed for suppression. How does she call herself a referee in the midst of all of these? And I'm saying that, but for the NDC election directory led by Dr. Manibuama, which was vigilant, the Electoral Commission published results or data that was wrong. Are you going to say that we are going to sit down and tolerate another Electoral Commissioner who is going to declare 2024 results with errors? That is recipe for chaos in this country. That will be chaotic because the step in 2024 election is not an exercise that we should joke with. It's an exercise that people are awake, Ghanaians are suffering. All they expect is that account for their votes. If it is 10,000 people who have voted, you must account for 10,000 votes. A situation where they pad the results and declare them will not be tolerated. So, the NDC is not perfect. We are not worried. Mm-hmm. We are confident that our rank and file is vigilant to audit the Electoral Commission and hold it accountable to work.
So, right. And so for the NDC, what would make you have the slightest confidence in the EC going into the 2024 elections? Hello, Mustafa.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So I'm asking, what would change the narrative in terms of the confidence that you have as a party in the EC going into the December 7 elections?
The Electoral Commission must ensure that there is a balance in terms of how she treats political parties. The Electoral Commission must account for the missing devices of the electioneering process that we have not unraveled yet. The Electoral Commission must ensure that network is functioning, because as a state, our fear is that 2024 in general elections, we are going to have a situation where at some places machines will not function, the network will not allow people to vote. And so it will be busy putting systems in place and stop working. If I were her, I would get busy working, because her work is so crucial in the security matters of this country leading to 2024, because the stakes are very high. Nobody would tolerate a rigged election. A compromised election would not be tolerated by the NDC any day going into 2024.
Very well. Mustafa, thank you so much for joining us with your thoughts. We are grateful for your time this evening.
Thank you very much for having me.
Fantastic. That's Mustafa Foyo Gbande. He is the Deputy General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress. And you heard him talking about exactly what their concerns are and how or what it will take for the NDC to have some level of confidence in the Electoral Commission going into the 2024 general elections, even though the Commissioner says she and the EC are going to ensure that they play their part and ensure fairness, ensure transparency, ensure there is some level of trust in the electoral process. That's what Jean Mensah is saying. For which reason, political parties should also be ready to accept the results or the outcome of the elections, because she says there are going to be winners, there are going to be losers. It's just like any football match, like Hassan Kotoko will be playing at 6 p.m. today in commemoration of 30 years of democracy as championed by Parliament. Yeah, she says that that's how it's going to be. And they are going to be the referee to ensure that this particular thing is executed in that manner. Let me know your thoughts on Facebook at facebook.com/star103.5 FM. Also on WhatsApp at 0552 880 216. We'll be ready to read your thoughts to the rest of the world. Now, time is ticking really fast for Africa as findings from the latest Afrobarometer flagship report on democratic trends in Africa reveals that more youth on the continent prefer military rule to democracy. Now, the report, according to Afrobarometer, distills findings from data spanning 25 years, including the latest round of nationally representative surveys conducted in 39 African countries and representing the views of more than 3/4 of Africans. In the report, 53% of Africans want the military to step in whenever elected governments are failing. This is raising some concerns, especially in light of the recent Gen Z uprising in Kenya. Now, we'll digest the findings, but first, let's listen to Afrobarometer Director of Service, Boniface Dulani.
Some of the countries like Ghana, we've seen a huge drop in satisfaction with democracy. And I think the reasons, as we know many of them, the economic situation in Ghana in recent years has not been particularly great. The youth have, as I've already said, like their colleagues elsewhere, are not happy with the amount of jobs that are being created. So most youth are going to attend higher education, and then when they complete higher education, you find that there are no jobs to absorb them. But they are also really disillusioned by the high levels of corruption. So on one hand, governments are telling the people that, look, brace up for these tough times, but then they look at the political leaders are not themselves really demonstrating that they too want to live that kind of life that they also sacrifice. I think it is important that governments really listen to the voices of the people, and that's what Afrobarometer is trying to do, to make sure that the voices of ordinary citizens are heard. Because if governments don't listen to the people, then either the next thing is that the people will vote out the governments, or as we've seen, I think people will be looking at alternative forms of government. What I think the report highlights is that while people remain committed to democracy, they are not happy with the democracy that is on offer. And these two sides, right now, I think we're saying that support for democracy is holding steady. But as more time passes with the disillusionment with the democracy, then more and more people will get disillusioned with the democracy itself, and then they will start to look at alternative forms of government. As we highlighted in the presentation, the youth, we are seeing more and more of them looking at military rule. Now, it is obviously quite a concern because it shows the high levels of disillusionment with democracy. But at the same time, most of the youth have never experienced military rule. So they might be looking at military rule to say, okay, democracy is failing, let's try military rule. But if you've lived through a military regime, you might know that, okay, as bad as democracy is, it's certainly better than those kind of governments. So we are seeing really a generational issue here, where a generation that has never experienced it, they might think, maybe this is something worth trying. The youth, and indeed many citizens, because you see that about 53% of African citizens are telling us that if governments are failing, ignoring the law, are abusing office, then the military should step in to clear that and clean that up. But at the same time, you see that the same results are showing that many people are still rejecting military rule, even though the numbers have been declining, but we still see about 2/3 of the citizens on this continent saying we don't want military rule. So what this tells us is that the military rule is being looked at as an option to clean up the mess when the civilian leaders have failed or indeed are blatantly ignoring the law, breaking the law and the constitutions. Then they're looking at the military as a temporary solution, not a permanent solution. But of course, it's an academic question whether the military can come in and stay in office for a temporary period of time, because what we have seen from experience that the military comes in, usually they will tell us that we will be in office for a brief period of time and then we will leave the stage. A classic case on this continent is Uganda, where President Museveni came in through the barrel of the gun in 1986 and he promised to stay for 3 years. He is still in office, 40 years, almost 40 years later. So I don't know how he's counting. Is it 3 years? I don't want to claim to be an expert on Ghana politics and Ghana elections, but I think, again, the numbers are,
So you heard there the Afro Barometer Director of Service, Boniface Dulani. Well, okay. So we'll shortly get to the phone lines now and speak to governance expert Professor Bafo Ajimanduya. Prof, thank you so much for joining us this evening on the bulletin, sir.
My pleasure to be with you.
Great. So, Prof, this is what the latest Afrobarometer finding is telling us, that on the continent, about 53% of Africans are losing confidence in the democracy that we are practicing, for which reason we are seeing more youth now opting for military rule instead of democracy. Worrying?
Very worrying indeed. Because towards the end of the 2010s, it was becoming clear from subsequent research by Afrobarometer that the enthusiasm of Africans generally for democracy has been waning. So, after years of dictatorships on the continent, with euphoria, we embraced the change that occurred in the late 90s through the 2000s. For our history on the continent, many countries, in fact, up to 54 or so countries in Africa, somewhere in the 80s, about 38 of them were under military rule. So once the change came with the fall of the former Soviet Union and the new era of freedom blowing all over the place, Africans were quite happy that the military regimes started falling one after the other. In Ghana, the ending of the PNDC rule is directly related to this phenomenon I'm talking about. Now, after 20 years or so of experiencing constitutional rule, or what you may call democratic rule, we are increasingly beginning to see this kind of frustration because, contrary to the expectation that there will be a democracy dividend, which in other words means that materially our lives will improve, politically there will be peace, and economically, of course, we'll have stable economy and progress will take place. But during this period, we are seeing across the African continent that many of our economies are really not working. Unemployment has become a major issue in almost all African countries. So the thousands of young people who are training in our universities, they are all coming out without jobs. Now, at the same time, paradoxically, I should say, the political class seems to be creating a real class for themselves. An example is what almost happened in this country a day or so ago, when in Parliament, parliamentarians wanted to even deepen the class differentiation in the country by giving to themselves the right to drive without any speed limit and to have sirens all over the place, hooting their way through traffic and all. So this kind of style in African politics, where the political elites seem to be enjoying, all of them are owning big cars, is not only in Ghana, across the continent, and yet express is giving this kind of sense to people. After all, what has this democracy country do for us except to enrich those who enter the political space? And that is why people are increasingly losing confidence in the ability of democratic rule to make their lives better. But having said that, it's also clear that there is no better alternative to democratic rule, and therefore the challenge is for us to begin to review how we practice democracy to ensure that many of these gaps that I've mentioned, or more that I can mention, will be closed to ensure that people's support for democracy rises again.
And Prof, if these challenges, if these concerns are clear to all of us, then why are we not seeing our leaders on the continent championing the path to ensure that the confidence in democracy is not lost? Because like you said, the alternative is very scary. I mean, if we have to go back to the days of military rule, most people will not survive. And the calls are also that those who are calling for military rule in place of democracy, which is not working for them, clearly did not experience the era of military rule. And that's why they're calling for that.
You're right. Good question that you are posing. But you see, it's not only the military that serves as an alternative to what we have. We can also have civilian dictatorship. In other words, politicians, excuse me, I'm sorry, I have a little cold. Politicians who have little respect for, and once they are elected democratically, they come to power and misbehave or behave undemocratically by not respecting the rights and liberties of citizens or by blunting transparency in the way they rule the countries, by mismanaging resources and investing in frivolous projects that bring no wealth to the country. In that case, it becomes, the problem becomes why the politicians themselves don't see the need to initiate the changes. Because as you know, they have the constitutional rule or constitutional right to effect changes. But in the absence of that, when the citizens themselves get frustrated and get very angry, then they begin to assert themselves. Asserting themselves could mean forcing a change in government without the military. What you are witnessing in Kenya today, demonstrations that have gone on for about 2-3 weeks now, more than 40 people at the time have been killed by the security agencies in Kenya. Yet, the Kenyans are insisting that even though Ruto was elected in a democratic setting, they are insisting that he resigns. We are yet to see the end of this kind of struggle in Kenya. But if they succeed in getting rid of Ruto, that would be historic because it never happened before that civil society has driven out an elected government, all because of the anger that they have, built over the years over how the politicians rule them. So the change, the alternative, cannot just be the military rule. But of course, that's the quickest response. But as you rightly say, most of the young people, the new generation, they never live under military rule. The older folks like us, we've seen it through. I don't think anybody wishes for that to come back because that is worse. It doesn't help. And military rule, you can't call them to task, you can't ask them to account. So even though what we are having is not the best, I think the challenge we have is how all of us, civil society, pressuring government to be alert to the needs of people and to respond, either by, like in Ghana, people are calling for certain constitutional changes constitutional changes. Some are calling for reducing government expenditures. Some are calling for measures that will limit our over-dependence on the international financial community, going back to the IMF every now and then, because we believe, and I do sincerely, that in this country, if you are right-thinking people taking charge of affairs, there's no reason why we should be borrowing for everything that we need in this country. There's no reason, because the resources are there. If we foolishly enter into agreements that gives us just 10% of a natural wealth that the good Lord has given us, there's our foolishness that is leading us to kind of stuff. So I think we need to begin to think straight. I think our minds, we need a new perspective for us to get things right in the country.
Right. And Prof, on the back of that, does it then surprise you when we are told that we have more people also saying that they would prefer an accountable yet ineffective government to a very effective yet unaccountable government?
Yes, accountable government. You see, this is not an easy question to respond. Just not long ago, I had that kind of discussion. You see, if you look at all the countries that have developed, materially speaking, in our world, especially in the Asian part of the world, so Ghanaians will like to say, oh, look at Singapore, oh, look at Malaysia, oh, look at South Korea. We started with them in the late 50s. Why is it that they are doing well and we are not? Even recently, the past 20 years, Rwanda in Africa is showing the best example of development. But the thing is, all these countries I mentioned, all of them did not develop overnight. And all of them did not develop on the basis of the democratic practice that we have imposed on ourselves. People, don't make a mistake about democracy. Nobody wants the principal democracy to be destroyed, which is where the liberties and the rights and participation and accountability are held. Whereas the practice of it is just how you create institutions and values and systems to achieve those principles. All the countries I mentioned earlier are doing well. You find that there has been long tenure of governance, either by the leader or by the party. In China, the Communist Party has ruled since 1949 when Chairman Mao passed away. There have been changes in leadership either through natural attrition as death or changes effected by the Communist Party itself. Otherwise, they have maintained the same solid approach to development. That's why today, as we speak, China is about the second most powerful country economically and militarily. Okay? If you take Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew was there for about 28 years, one person. But it took dedication to a cause to make the country great for it to change. If you take Rwanda, Kagame has been there 22 years. Just this past, I think 2 days ago, he was re-elected for another term. But then, the longevity of Kagame in government has also shown tremendous progress in the country. So whilst longevity is important in development, the plan that you have and the people who will be set to the plan, the quality of leadership is another decisive factor. So you cannot have every 4 year changing the people who are leading you, and they come with their own agenda, manifesto, whatever they call it. When we don't have the national development plan, and even if you have a government council, I don't like that, I'm doing my own thing. So you're saying you begin a program, they vote you out in 4 years, and the 20 or 200 schools that you wanted to build will be abandoned by the next government. Now, the next government comes and says, well, I want 111 hospitals. You can't finish it. So you do 30 to whatever that you do, you leave. And if the next government comes, he also wants to show to the people that I also did something, they abandon it and then back on their own agenda. You don't find this in Singapore, China, Malaysia, Rwanda. You don't find that. So look, if you want to eat your cake, eat it, but you can't eat your cake and have it back. If you want democracy to be this way, 4 years, every 4 years, let's change, then don't lament the fact that we are not progressing. So we can take examples from the countries that are cited. Every Ghanaian wants to go to China today. Everybody wants to go to Rwanda. South Africa, some funny things going on there. But I think we see what has happened in South Africa in the last election. They realize, the citizens proved that, look, ANC alone cannot do it. So they have forced the ANC to form a coalition, what they call the unity government, to bring all the white folks in the Democratic Alliance and the Nkata people and the Mwalima's party. They come together to form a unity government so their country can move on. Here in Ghana, we are rather divided. We have divided ourselves into extreme camps. And this one doesn't do anything right when in power. But when in opposition, they see everything that is right to do. They get into power, they change, and they don't do anything good. That is part of the problem we have. So look, if Ghanaians want to have a conversation about how we get out of this logjam of airs and needless conflict. Look, the elections are coming. You watch how these politicians are going to behave. Everybody will be presenting themselves as angels, having the knowledge, the D&D and the experience. You wait and see. We've done this for 32 years, and I cannot say we have gone forward in any significant way. Okay? So I think we need to revisit the whole notion of democratic practice and see what is best for us as a people, not what the Americans do. American 4 year, we don't even know the rationale for them to pick 4 years as a tenure for their president. We just picked it. Why not Britain, where a party can be there for 14, 15 years so far as they win elections? Why not? You see? So I think it's time for us to review what we've been doing the past 30 years, see how best we reposition our democratic practice to ensure that there's some kind of a sense of unity, a sense of togetherness in approaching our development, so that we don't take 2 steps forward, 3 steps backward.
And Prof, for a country like Ghana heading into an election in less than 5 months, data as this, how should it inform our policy directions or our political class? What should it be telling them going into that election?
Well, frankly, I will not be answer directly, because you see, if you follow the campaign, nobody is even talking about fundamental changes that way. The economy. How do we reverse a sinking economy? How do we limit our dependence on the international donor, the IMF and the other IFIs, international financial institutions? How do we mobilize and capitalize on our domestic resources so that we can be self-sufficient in certain basic needs of Ghanaian food? How do we? These are the critical issues for me. Not that if I come out and build a camp, integrate the chiefs into government, I come.
Hello, Prof. We are losing you. The network is a bit tricky this evening.
I'm sorry, but hear me now?
Yes, I can hear. Yes, I can hear you now.
So I'm saying, I told you, how we want to reverse the state economy.
Right.
We cut the overdependence that we have on the international financial community. We want to hear how we utilize and maximize the use of our local resources for our self-sustenance, how we become self-sufficient in food production. These are the critical issues that we need to be looking at, and not promises of giving us more schools, more roads. I don't know, because the roads, if they are going to build the road, they are going to borrow money. Because, look, the resources the revenues, 70% goes to the emoluments of public officials. And then we are also paying about a third of our revenue or more to service the national debt. So in fact, we are just living on borrowed time. So we don't have the resources. These are the critical issues that the political parties should answer. They should tell the people. But I think those in civil society, including the media in particular, you have to raise these critical questions. The amount of what they want to do.
Right.
Dancing around, sketching around, whatever.
Right. Prof, thank you so much for the insight this evening. We truly appreciate your time, sir.
Okay.
You heard the Professor Bafo Ajimandia, governance expert, speaking to us on the latest Afrobarometer report and its content pointing to more youth opting for military rule in place of democracy, because about 53% of Africans are losing confidence in the democracy that we are practicing on the continent. But talking about elections and campaigning, like where Prof left off, not all battles are fought in the boxing ring. Now, some are fought behind the podium with words. Now, Ghana, since the year 2000, has been keen on presidential debates. It is a means to send a message to electorates beyond the manifesto. However, after a long pause from the battle of words, calls are becoming rife for another debate. Question is, will the strong opponents have a consensus to match each other? Ekobwache has more.
Since being declared flag bearers of Ghana's biggest rival in political parties, John Dramani Mahama and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia have been taking swipes at each other.
When Vice President Bawumia was saying, our economic management team, we have Professor John Bafo, we have Alan Chiramate, we have Honorable Osafo Mafo, we have Ken Oforiata. What a solid team. What a solid team earlier.
Muduka mun yi fatiyas mubasi sai yi tuban na ba haka ba. Malam John.
All this in a bid to sell themselves worthy to the voting public as the next president of Ghana.
I promise to lead the change, and I invite you to be part of the change.
But are Ghanaians liking what's on display? An unstructured discourse with no guide, unclear direction, and no means to keep proper scores. Let's go back in time, in the year 2000, where the Institute of Economic Affairs hosted all aspirants of the year's election. The well-attended debates debuted with all aspirants save the then Vice President, Professor John Evans Atta Mills, who doubled as the flag bearer of the sitting party, the National Democratic Congress. Professor Mills went on to lose that election and the next, both to the New Patriotic Party's John Agyekum Kufuor. Despite winning the election in 2004, Kufuor had not partaken in the year's debate, throwing a jinx into the myth that could have blamed electoral losses on debate absenteeism. The 2008 presidential debate had no incumbent president on the bill. The aspirants got the opportunity to debate on a somewhat level ground, which preceded Professor Mills's win in that December's poll. The next debate by the Institute of Economic Affairs was held in 2012. With better structures in place, the debate was introduced to moderators who were tasked to ask questions and drive the direction of the event. Interestingly, the two moderators will go on into political careers. Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, a celebrated academic, became the Minister for Education in the next government and subsequently the 2020 and 2024 running mate for the National Democratic Congress. The other moderator, Kodjo Mensah, who was then a journalist, will go on to become Member of Parliament for Ofuase Ayerebi and Deputy Minister for Information, then Substantive Minister for Information, and subsequently Minister for Works and Housing. The debate saw then incumbent President John Dramani Mahama representing the National Democratic Congress, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo for the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Abu Sakara then representing the Convention's People's Party, and Dr. Hassan Ayariga then of the People's National Convention. It was thrilling to have a sitting president join the aspirants for the debate. This worked against the perception that certain presidents use the debate as a conduit to win the elections and then decide not to engage in further debates.
But to look at the symptom rather than the cure, I think for a person who has such legal training, I think it's a bit misread. I can understand that if we are desperate to win political power, we take any instrument and we use it against our political opponents.
If you are committed to the fight of against corruption, you yourself, of course, must not be corrupt.
But we all are involved in maintaining peace and controlling crimes.
First of all, the issue of decentralization is important to decentralize even the corruption.
In the year 2016, the Institute of Economic Affairs held its town hall presidential debate, which only saw 3 presidential aspirants seated: Dr. Papa Kwesi Ndum of the PPP, Jacob Osei-Yeboah, an independent candidate, and Dr. Edward Mahama of the PNC. John Mahama, who was incumbent president, and Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo of the opposition MPP failed to show up.
So everybody needs to make a personal stand on corruption. It is no longer acceptable to stand somewhere and say, I'm not corrupt.
The results of that year's election led to Mahama losing to Akufo-Addo. Since then, the debates have been on hold. Both the NPP and the NDC pointed fingers at each other for not wanting to debate. Now, interestingly, calls are loud from none other than the same man who directed John Mahama to go debate the people.
He's running away from a debate. He doesn't want to debate because he knows I'll expose the emptiness of his policies.
This is a statement the NDC flag bearer spokesperson, Joyce Bawa Mokhtari, deems as not a priority, but should be targeted at Dr. Bawumia rather fixing the economy. Meanwhile, Deputy National Communications Officer for the National Democratic Congress, Malik Basintale, says John Mahama has been ready for this since 2020 and has been calling to no avail.
President Mahama called for a debate. His party, together with his boss, Akufo-Addo, they wrote a letter telling us they will not engage in a debate. You remember, Sewa? We are fully ready for any debate.
Question is, will the strongest opponents bid to the call and give Ghana a showdown? This is Echo Watch's report for GH1 TV and Starr FM.
Well, and here in the studios of Starr 103.5 FM, I am Joshua Kodjo Mensah. And if you're listening to us outside Accra, you're definitely doing so on one of our affiliates.
Star News is coming to you live on Ultimate 106.9 FM in Kumasi, Empire 102.7 FM in Takrady, Cool 103.5 FM in Ho, Rage and Might FM in Tamale, Somali FM in Wa, My Star Radio in the USA. Also live on Facebook on Star 103.5 FM and on starfm.com.gh around the world. This is Star 103.5 FM.
Well, welcome back to the bulletin. 36 more cases of dengue fever have been recorded in both the eastern and central regions, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 47 as of Wednesday, July 17. The Ghana Health Service says no deaths have been recorded yet, with only one patient on admission. Now, it comes just a few days after the country confirmed its first outbreak with 9 cases in the eastern region on Sunday, July 14. Here's a news desk report by health reporter Evelyn Arabaedu.
The Ghana Health Service sent an alert of the outbreak of dengue fever in the country on Sunday, July 14, after 9 cases were confirmed out of the over 30 suspected cases under investigation in the eastern region. However, on Monday, July 15, 2 more cases were confirmed, raising the number of confirmed cases to 11 out of 57 suspected cases. These cases, as of Monday, were in 5 districts in the eastern region, namely Brim North, Brim South, and Brim Central, Achiase and Achimansa, with 103 suspected cases. New Jabin is the latest district to record the disease, bringing the number of districts in the region to 6. The newest region to be infected with the dengue fever is the central region. More samples from suspected cases have been submitted to the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research for confirmation. These cases were detected in the communities by healthcare workers using an appropriate case definition. The public is reminded of the symptoms of dengue, which include sudden onset of high-grade fever, severe headache, mostly in the forehead, body aches, muscle, bone, and joint pains, nausea, and or vomiting and rash. The service is also urging the general public, especially those in the affected areas, to prevent themselves from mosquito bites.
Right, so you had a report by Evelyn Arabaedu. And once you're talking about the health sector, there is a worrying situation there. Why? Because the Rotational Nurses and Midwives Association, they have given government 2 weeks to pay all outstanding allowances. According to them, failure to comply within the time frame will result in an action beyond their control. Here is National President of the Rotational Nurses and Midwives Association, Ameble Kwame Jr., addressing the media a while ago.
However, the Vice President, His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, didn't respond to the concerns about the service allowances, but made a promise to the trainee nurses for what we see as a political gimmick, which has now been partially fulfilled. We also want to draw his attention that these 11,000 rotation nurses, together with the current batch, which is 20,478, who are being owed both trainees and rotational allowances, are registered voters and can influence the outcome of the upcoming election. We, the members of Rotational Nurses and Midwives Association, call on the Ministry of Health, the government, and all relevant stakeholders to address our concerns urgently. Our specific demands are as follows. Immediate issue or issuance of our financial clearance. We demand the immediate issuance of our financial clearance to facilitate the payment of all unpaid allowances and enable us to meet our basic needs. Payment of unpaid allowances. Following the issuance of financial clearance, we expect the swift disbursement of all outstanding allowances to alleviate our financial burdens. Regular engagement and communication. We request regular and transparent communication from the Ministry of Health regarding the status of our financial clearance and allowances to keep us involved and informed in the process.
So you had National President of the Rotational Nurses and Midwives Association, Ameble Kwame Jr. Fortunately, he's joined me in the studio, and this would be, his fourth or fifth time in the studio. Kwame, welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm fine.
And today you didn't come alone. He came with his press secretary, Vicentia. Vicentia, how are you also doing?
I'm also fine, thank you.
Right, very well. So it looks like it's been consistent, months upon months, yet nothing is happening. What really is happening with your allowances? Because we heard earlier that, well, yes, there's going to be some commitment whatsoever and all of that. Is it that the rotational nurses were not a part of this commitment?
All right. Thank you so much. A very good evening to your cherished listeners and viewers. So, straight to the point, we are rotational nurses, simply national service personnel. And we started our rotation in July last year and ended in June this year. Over this period, we've not received our allowance. That is our basic problem. So going straight to what you asked, we were not part of those who were promised.
Right.
By the Vice President. I was there in May of this year when GRNMA commemorated the International Nurses Day, where the Vice President was the guest speaker. A few problems were addressed to him for him to respond, such as a delay in payment of trainee allowances and then rotation allowances, which he responded to the trainee allowances, which we saw as just a political gimmick, because he was asked by one student when they are going to pay the allowances. And he didn't respond to us. We as trainees are being owed allowances, student allowances, completed our training, and now having our mandatory national service without our allowances as well. If they think that it is at the point that they need to win interest or vote of the people, we want to also put it on records that we, the current batch, we are 11,000. Our juniors who just started their national service 2 months ago are also 20,496, which is also 30,000, relatively to a close number of students in school currently. Mm-hmm. If they think the training allowance is more efficient or more important than the rotational allowances, we also have our decisions to make. And I'm very sure that what the ongoing maltreatment of nurses and midwives, especially in the payment of our allowances, what we rely on, this is just a little amount, 850 cedis per month. We work without getting this money. How do we survive?
You've done a full year.
A full year.
Without that?
Yes. We've been following. Just as you know, in January, we released a press statement to the media and then submitted copies to the ministry. All we're asking for is our money. We didn't get any response. Follow-up letters, we didn't get any response. We were forced to demonstrate, to present another petition. That very morning, April 16, it rained in Accra. We had to be in the rains to go to the ministry. When we got there, the Ministry of Health PRO and then the Director HR received our petition they showed some concern, promising us that, you are like our children. We can see all you are going through. You cannot transport yourselves to work. We know feeding is difficult for you. And they were stating the problems. They didn't even read our letter, meaning they know.
They are aware.
They are aware. They know of the situation on the ground. And promise us that they are going to engage the Ministry of Finance and in due time our financial clearance will be released. From April to date, when you go to the ministry, they tell you to come back a week. You don't even get any official communication. We submitted letters. They are not responding to us. And that is why today we have to hold a press conference to let the Ministry of Health know that it is not a favor they are doing us by giving us these allowances.
Right.
These allowances are hard-earned monies. We have actually worked for it throughout these 52 weeks serving the nation. So we deserve it, and this is the time they have to pay it for us.
Okay.
We need it now.
Right. I'll come back to you on that, but let me quickly rope in Vicentia into the conversation. So I all the time that I've been engaged in Kwame, he's been telling me how the impact of the non-payment of these allowances has been on you and your colleagues having to go to work and all of that. What is the situation as we speak? Now that after your rotation, still government has not released those funds to you.
The situation is really bad, honestly. So let's take, for example, you have to work a whole year, your transportation, feeding. Some of us are coming from very far places. Some are from northern region, as we all know. So you'll be posted somewhere to go and work. You don't have money for your rent and other things. So it makes our life so difficult for us. It's just a little money for us to manage for the month. But if you are not giving us the money, how are we supposed to cope? So that's our challenge at the moment. Yeah.
And with your members, what is the morale of your members? Because clearly, well, I'm imagining being a nurse in your case and not being paid. Yet I was expected to go to work and all of that. What is the morale? Because you people cannot afford not to be excited or not to be happy because it would impact on the work you do. And you work with human beings.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the issue is when it comes to nursing, when you don't go to work, they will punish you or something. So you have to go. So if you decide not to go, I mean, the leaders there in the facility will deal with you and other things. So
you've not been paid yet.
yes,
if you don't go to
yes,
work to
that's
Wahala.
the complaint we've been facing. And even our demonstration, some of the leaders were like, you have to come to work, you don't have to go to the demonstration. So it was like we took a bold step to go for the demonstration. Yeah.
Right. Well, Kwame, so I don't even know how to go about this, but you say there's not been any communication, official communication to let you know this is the future of the payment of your allowance. You've not heard from the health minister. Now, Dr. Okoboy is the health minister. He himself, a health professional. You've not heard anything still?
We've not heard anything. We've written letters directly to the minister, Dr. Okoboy, which have been received in his office. But we've not had any response from those letters, the follow-up letters as well. We've not had any conversation or any engagement regarding our concerns.
Well, I know Dr. Okoboy is in Fomena with the president. They are actually commissioning the Fomena hospital and would definitely have to get some answers. But today, you mentioned that there is a time frame. Within 2 weeks, if you do not hear from government, you would advise yourself.
Yeah. So on that, we are at a point that our landlords are tired of us. Though in general, we are having a lot of issues, but we are at a point that the year has ended. We've promised our landlords that when we end the service, we will get our money, our 1 year money, and then we will pay them. But we are at a point that we are not getting the money. There is no hope. And then they are evicting us. They are taking us away from their rooms. So our ultimatum is 2 weeks. We expect the ministry to do a swift justice to our concern. If we don't receive this in these 2 weeks, we will advise ourselves. And that advice is probably that we are going to make the Ministry of Health our new residence.
Because your landlords are ejecting you.
Yes,
Wow.
we don't have places to stay. And also our other concern is our juniors who are currently in service.
Yes, and I wanted to ask about them because I don't know about you, but if my seniors who just finished a year of service have not been paid a dime, me I won't go. Because it doesn't motivate me to want to do my work.
That is it.
And so how are they feeling?
The morale is very low. It's very low. But you know, as a nurse who has gone through training, and you know that you just have to do this mandatory service to be able to acquire your license to practice. So you have to just bear the pain, swallow the difficulties, and go through these challenges. So as I speak with you, most of them are listening to us. They ask us, hey, so how did you do it? Can we survive this? And you know, last time in your studio, I was sharing one. Listen, we've lost some of our colleagues.
You mentioned that some of your colleagues had to pass.
Yes, just 3 weeks ago, we lost another colleague of ours again, a rotation nurse. And some of this, if you really go into it, you could see that they were not able to even pay their medical bills. There were challenges. The person could not transport himself to work, and even facing, medical conditions. How would the person survive? You understand? They just come, and then we suffer for the whole 1 year, end up getting diseases for ourselves. Because I told you have to stay empty stomach. I mean, from morning to evening, or you eat once a day. Like, if we talk about this, they are not exaggerations, but they are real situations. Imagine you are not being paid. How are you going to work? So our juniors, the 20,000, are on the wards right now with low morals, but they are trying their best to deliver efficient service to the patients.
So 11,000, a little above 11,000 of you, not paid for a year.
Not paid.
20,000 have also started. Yes. And they don't even know if they are going to get theirs.
Yes.
Wow. So let me come to you, Vicentia, as we wrap up the conversation. Family. Because, yes, my sister is a nurse. My sister is working. I would definitely expect my sister to send me some momo. How is the relation like?
So, with the coming to the station and everything helps, because at times if family calls you and you'll be like, I don't have money, they would think maybe you are lying.
You're a wicked sister.
But here is the case. We too are finding it difficult to get money. So with family, even though they support us, but it's not always that you are going to call home that you need money. Me, for instance, my landlord is evicting me.
Oh, Vicentia, you are being evicted?
Yeah.
Ah, sorry about that. Well, Kwame, so what will be your final word as we wrap up the conversation this evening?
All right. So the summary of our press conference is that we are demanding our money now. And we are hoping that the Ministry of Health goes to head with the Ministry of Finance, do the necessary arrangements, release our financial clearance, and pay us swiftly. This is money we deserve, but we are still calling on them to do the right thing, and that is all we have for them. We are hoping to hear positive news so that we can all continue to serve our mother Ghana in peace and...
Kwame, thank you. Thank you so much. That's Ameble Kwame Jr. He's president of the Rotational Nurses and Midwives Association. Vicentia was also here, press secretary to the association, and their message is simple. Government ought to release their financial clearance and get them paid. I mean, they're done with their rotation 1 full year, not a peswa paid to them. And it's really disturbing to know that our health professionals have to go through this. And it's no surprise that we see most of them, when they're done, having to leave the country to look for better opportunities elsewhere. But this is Starr today here on Starr 103.5 FM. We're back shortly after this. Stay tuned.
Starr today, first, fast, and credible.
So from health, let's move on to some other stories. And the minority in parliament has slammed the government over increment in the prices of petroleum products. Now, consumers were made to pay more for petrol and diesel at the pumps yesterday. Addressing the media on the development, ranking member for the Committee on Energy, John Abdullahi Jinapor, blamed the development on the inability of the government to rein in the depreciation of the cedi. The Yape Kusong MP asserted evidence has shown the former finance minister, Kenneth Oriata, was not the problem with the mismanagement of the economy, but rather the vice president, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, who heads the economic management team. John Jinapor charged the NPP flag bearer to address the challenges of the economy instead of calling for a debate with the former president, John Dramani Mahama.
Of the economy have to set up. And clearly the Bank of Ghana is losing it. Whilst the Bank of Ghana is spending millions of cedis and dollars on the gold for oil program, the currency is not stabilizing. The cedi is depreciating, fuel prices are going up, cost of living is going up, and everybody is suffering. But worst of all, wages and salaries are stagnating. Wages and salaries are not going up. And so, hitherto, under President Mahama, whilst you could buy 2 bags of rice with your minimum wage, today you cannot even buy 1 bag of rice with your minimum wage. The managers of the economy have lost it. And I think that Dr. Baumia, instead of calling for a debate, he should rather spend some time to concentrate on managing the economy. Because the cost of living is going through the roof. We cannot continue like that. And I think that Dr. Baumia should stop the unnecessary call for a debate, do his work as the head of the economic management team, and ensure that we deal with the ever-rising cost of fuel. Thank you very much.
On the price increment relative to petroleum products, we told it's gone up by at least 4 cities. Now, the argument is that we have deregulation, and that started under your term. So, what could government have done about this?
Yeah, but even as you engage in deregulation, it's the duty of the government to manage the economy, i.e. the exchange rate. And the exchange rate is a function of the management of the economy. Because if you don't manage the economy well, and you import so much, it puts pressure on your currency. Because don't forget that the exchange rate is the price of the currency. And as you demand more of foreign currency, it means that you're going to have a problem. Another challenge is even what is happening at the port. Almost every week or 2 weeks, they change the exchange rate at the port. And because of the uncertainty, importers tend to price ahead of the expected exchange rate. And so that also feeds into the speculative system. And that is something that the NDC government intends to address, so that there's some level of predictability, there's some level of certainty, so that the exchange rate can be managed. The rate at which the exchange rate is going and the rate at which the CD is depreciating is unacceptable. We cannot continue like that. The government must think outside the box. That is why the people of Ghana voted for them, to resolve their challenges and problems. They cannot pass the buck and just say that it's deregulation. Then we don't need a government after all. If it's just deregulation, then let the market forces determine its price. These are the people who promised us that the gold for oil program will stabilize the currency. These are the people who promised us that the gold for oil will reduce the price of fuel. Today, the currency is depreciating. Fuel price is increasing. They told us that Kenneth Oreta was a problem, and that if Kenneth Oreta was removed, the problem will be solved. He is out. And since he left, fuel prices have even increased more. The currency is even depreciating more. And so clearly the problem is not Kenneth Oreta, but the managers of the economy with Dr. Bawumia as head.
So you heard that John Jinapor, he is the minority spokesperson on the Energy Committee, speaking there in Parliament, but still talking about the minority. They have charged government to immediately find funds to settle about 6 billion indebtedness of the Free Senior High School Secretariat instead of engaging in the needless debate of which party started the policy. Addressing the media, ranking member for the Committee on Education, Peter Nochukotoi, revealed only 10% of the total amount due the supplier of the One Student, One Tablet has been paid. The Akachi North MP further disclosed the upcoming WASI is in danger as a result of government's indebtedness of 224 million cedis to WAEC. According to him, other suppliers to the Free SHS Secretariat have equally not been spared, including those who supply palm oil. Listen to him.
For some time now, we've spoken about the Free Senior High School. Let me state clearly that I don't think any reasonable Ghanaian is against this policy. It is the implementation differences that we have. However, we all support the program. Otherwise, President Mahama wouldn't have launched it in 2015. It's a very laudable program. It has provided access to secondary education for quite a large number of people who wouldn't have had the opportunity, looking at the costs involved at that time. However, the program is facing a lot of challenges, and one of them has to do with finance. As we speak now, the financial challenges are becoming too much and going through the roof. I can say that information available to me indicates that over 6 billion is being owed to companies, individuals, and organizations in relation to Free Senior High School. For instance, you know, this year they launched the tablets for senior high schools. It's a very good program. This is because it's going to reduce the burden on the printing of textbooks. And you know our children, how they handle textbooks. I mean, every 3 or 4 years, you have to replace them. So the idea is fine, and we support it. Even if you look at NDC's manifesto for 2020, it was there. We even added tertiary institutions. So we support the idea, but we should do it at a time where resources are available. You have asked somebody to do this or supply the tablets, but 1.3 million, that's 1,350,000 to cover all students. You are not paying for it. Meanwhile, the man has gone for a loan, and it is at a cost of 337 million Ghana cedis. You have not paid the person. You have paid him less than 10% of the cost. If he had gone for a bank a guarantee or whatever, how would the person pay? So, as a minority, we are concerned that if we do this, we are killing businesses of individuals and companies in the country. So there's a need for us to intervene on their behalf. Then again, government still owes WAEC. You know, as part of the free senior high school policy or program, students are not to pay for WASE. Government pays everything on their behalf. The examination is about to start in August. However, government had not released any money to WAEC. Now, they owe them 2024, they owe them arrears of 2023, and 2024, they have not paid anything. Total of 224 million Ghana cedis. That is what they are owing WAEC. So WAEC is unable to talk again because we had to talk for them before money was released for the BEC. And we shouldn't be going that tangent. Whatever is due to an institution or an agency that is to perform a function on behalf of government must receive resources early enough to plan ahead. Then the third issue has to do with supply of materials. Those who supplied school uniform 2 years ago, they are owing them. Those who supplied food items, even palm oil, a year ago, they are still owing them. And many other things. And putting all those things together is also about 300 million Ghana cedis. So this 6 billion Ghana cedis, which is now a debt on the neck of the Free Senior High School Secretariat, must be settled, especially for the suppliers, the companies, so that we don't put their businesses at a disadvantage or go into bankruptcy.
So you had Peter Nochukoto, Akachi North MP, and also ranking on the Education Committee of Parliament. Now, viewers of GH1 Television and listeners of Starr 103.5 FM have contributed 51,000 cedis to help in the treatment of 2-year-old Adepa, whose life hangs in the balance by a heart condition, tetralogy of Fallot. Now, she needed $15,000 for a surgery at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, but has so far gathered just about 1/3 of the amount, hoping to get more funds for her surgery. Now, her heart condition, caused by a combination of 4 heart defects, leads to blood clot, heart failure, and even death. Now, thanks to your benevolence, Adepa will make a down payment and await a date to undergo the surgery to stay alive. We see the day has more on this.
This moment described one of the numerous episodes Adepa suffers on daily basis. But the benevolence of viewers of GH1 TV, after the story was shared, gives Adepa's mother hope that her daughter will live.
She's going to get the surgery done. She would get well soon after the surgery, and she will live her life to the fullest and hopefully achieve something better and become somebody prominent in the future.
She could not hide her excitement after a check for 51,020 cedis was given to her for Adepa's surgery.
It makes me feel very happy. At least this will go a long way to make some deposits, make some arrangements to get her surgery done.
The money will be deposited in the bank account of the Cardiothoracic Department of Kolebu Teaching Hospital as the family awaits for scheduled date for Adepa's surgery. The family is hopeful of receiving more funds to complement the amount needed for the surgery to take place.
Even though this is not like the entire sum that I need, because of her situation, like for instance, last week, we were on admission. She has sores all over her mouth. I don't know if it's related to her condition, but they said there was some infection or something. Apart from that, they don't even know why she's having all these sores in her mouth. We went to Tema General Hospital. We were on admission for a day or two, and then we were back at home. Petty illness here and there, running stomach, then she gets constipation, all those petty issues. Once she gets her heart corrected, a lot of these petty things will go away.
We are still hopeful of receiving more funds to help little Adipa survive. Remember, there is more blessing in giving. For GH1 News, Awisi Dede Jange.
Well, Adipa is grateful for the 51,000 cedis raised so far. She will need more to complete the surgery and be able to live a very fulfilled life. Grateful to you for your contributions, and we'll be expecting more to help Adipa go through this. But let's bring you the sports now. And the man who is wearing one of the sharpest suits I've ever seen, Benjamin Yamwa, has joined me. Benghazi.
Josh.
And please, if you are listening to us on radio, quickly go on Facebook and go and see Benghazi's suits. Then you will know what I'm talking about. Benghazi, Charlie, how are you doing today?
I'm huge.
Chairman, you are huge. Oh, you're boy.
Can we do sports now? Okay, so in sports, now after over 5 years of what seemed like a never-ending battle legally, the Commercial Court 7 in Accra today found CAF, that's Confederation of African Football, CAF, guilty of infringing on the intellectual property rights of producer and tech enthusiast Spikey. Now, the court held that Africa's football governing body, CAF, breached the copyright law in failing to obtain the necessary legal permission before using the talented producer's musical beat Okomfo Anoche as part of promotional materials for the 2018 CAF Awards that were held in Ghana. Now, lawyers for Spikey, Born Kwabena Ofe Kwade Nkrumah, Anku at law, had argued that CAF plagiarized, appropriated, and infringed on the talented producer's copyright by failing to acknowledge him as the owner of the property. Now, the plaintiff asserted that CAF's conduct was a blatant disrespect and disregard for his property rights in his music and a flagrant and brazen infringement of his copyright, causing him the loss of substantial revenue from any licensing of his music for commercial use. This lawsuit came 3 years after Spikey called out CAF for copyright infringement in a series of tweets in 2019. And in the ruling today, Justice Emmanuel Lodo injuncted the football governing body in Africa and asked for the removal of all infringing materials from all their social media platforms. He then awarded damages of Ghana cedi equivalent of $250,000 and a legal cost of 40,000 Ghana cedis against CAF. Now, Spikey, reacting to this ruling, said the legal battle and the ruling is a win for the numerous other producers whose creative works have been stolen or illegally used without getting appropriate or any compensation from that. So that's a landmark ruling today in Ghana against Africa's football governing body, CAF, for using the materials of Spikey. And so the award, $250,000.
And I don't know why people are converting into cedis.
You need to, because you're in Ghana.
What are you going to use it?
It will help you appreciate that amount very, very well. It will help you appreciate the money.
Someone said 38 billion.
I'm telling you, it's pay, as we used to put it back in the days. Anyway, some other sports stories now. In Ghana, that Ibrahim Suleimana has joined Europa League winners Atlanta Bergamo Calcio in the summer transfer window. Now the youngster joined the Italian outfit from rivals Cagliari ahead of the upcoming campaign in the Serie A. Suleimana has been one of the finest youngsters in the Serie A since moving to the Serie A club in 2021, where he featured for Hellas Verona and now at Cagliari. The hard-working defensive midfielder helped both clubs survive another campaign in the league after scoring to secure Hellas Verona's survival during the previous campaign before he moved to join Cagliari. And before I ended, just some few minutes ago when I walked in here, the game is ongoing currently at Accra Sports Stadium. Is the Democracy Cup involving Hearts of Oak and the Fabulous side. When I was coming in here, it was goalless. Hearts of Oak 0, Kotoko 0. Before that game, though, there was a curtain raiser involving ex-Black Stars players who turned up in their numbers from Stephen Appiah to Sule Muntari, John Pencil, Lai Kingston, Mohamed Gago, Kwame Ayew. All of them turned up, but they lost. So the Parliament Select side by 3-1. So Parliament Select side 3, the ex-Black Stars players 1 in a curtain raiser. So the game currently ongoing at Accra Sports between the Phobians and the Fabulous side, all in what has been termed Democracy Cup, preaching peace ahead of elections in December this year in Ghana. That should be it for sports today.
Many thanks, Benjamin Yamwa, for bringing us the latest updates by way of sports. And let's round off in Nigeria, where hope for the country as the executive officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited announces that Nigeria will become a net exporter of petroleum by December 2024. The country has been terribly hit by varied crises, causing a decline in the economy. Aside the cholera outbreak in the country recently, the country is also battling erratic power outages and food shortages, which compelled federal government of Nigeria to enact a 150-day duty-free food importation policy, which is still being deliberated on. During an interactive session with the Senate Committee on Finance on the state of Nigeria's economy, the executive officer confirmed that all the necessary preparations are in place for the nation to start exporting petroleum.
Let me just give confirmation that MPC and the oil and gas industry is very critical in bringing a turnaround in our current economic situation, and we understand the importance of this. We are taking every step that is practical for us to achieve this. We are already seeing growth in our oil and gas production because of certain actions that Mr. President personally took, and also the very mere truth that we have also declared a war on the production activities, and this is paying off. The combination of these two has now seen us restoring production in our country, and we believe that, as the Honourable Minister has said, that we have a line of sight to the 2 million barrels production and subsequent growth in production. This country, as we have said, will be a next exporter of petroleum products by the end of this year, and we're very optimistic that by December this country will be net exporter. That means combination of production coming from us and also from the Dangote refinery and other smaller producing companies that we know are in line to do this. So I can confirm to you, Mr. Chairman, that by the end of the year, this country will be a net exporter of petroleum products.
Well, that's some good news for Nigeria there. But that's how we wrap up the bulletin right here on Star 103.5 FM. This morning is for your starfm.com.gh. I am Joshua Kodjo Mensah. At 6:30, we'll bring you Focus on Africa from the BBC. Many thanks to Emmanuel Donko, for ensuring that we're live on Facebook. And for all of you sending your messages and texts, thank you so much for doing that. We'll read them when we are next on air tomorrow right here on Simply the Best, Star 103.5 FM. Do have a wonderful evening.